And welcome all, it's Russ, and I'm back in Factorio. I did a Factorio series a number of months ago, and at the end of that series I said I'm going to go show you a Rail Mega Base. And I got thinking about that, and I kept thinking about that, and really just never found something that I thought was compelling enough for a video series. So I've been playing Factorio, and I've been kind of building my Rail Mega Base, but haven't made videos out of it. And I got thinking about it, and I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see this base I've built, which is quite extensive. Let me zoom out here, and you can see it is a quite large base. Most of these extended things are places where I've just built turrets out to claim territory, but I've done a whole lot of building here. Um, I keep hearing about these so many science per minute bases, and I'm just kind of curious how my base measures up. And when I think about it, probably if we're talking about science per minute in terms of white science per minute, that's the space science. I don't have a base that's going to be able to launch even one rocket per minute, but I think it's an interesting start on it, and I'm enjoying the fact that this is a heavily rail-oriented base. So I thought that I would do a little series here where I just worked on trying to see how many science per minute I could squeeze out of this and see what actually my bottlenecks were and what they weren't. You'll notice that this, of course, is the original base that I built, the original portion of the base here. So it's got an older style bus. Instead of using the ribbon bus, I'm using these types of buses where there's space in between them. And I got to the point where I had built all of the major elements except for rockets. And then I started saying, okay, I'm going to have these start really going into trains. I've had some fair amount of success with it, but it's also, I'm continually facing little deadlocks, strange problems and balancing problems. So I've tried a whole bunch of different railroad strategies, only some of which worked. I've tried a whole bunch of different expansion strategies, only some of which worked. So I've got a base that's kind of working in a lot of interesting ways and kind of not working in a number of really interesting ways. So um, I think it's worth using this as a starting point. I anticipate eventually having to pull huge amounts of this apart, but we'll take a look. When you look at how this is all laid out, you'll notice that I've got two different types of trains. So you've seen a whole bunch of 111 trains. So it's got a single cargo wagon. It's got locomotives on either end. I'm using that a lot for there and back again sort of simple systems. But for big long systems, which right now just basically means iron and copper, I am playing around with 8 long single-ended trains. So these have a couple of locomotives at one end. They got 8 cargo wagons following up, and they run on an isolated system. So although the track systems cross over for reasons of preventing deadlocks, I don't ever have these 8 long systems um, work in the same area as my ordinary trains, or not on the same tracks at least, I should say. Um, and that keeps them from causing deadlocks upon each other. I've really tried to make this something where I can mostly run the base by remote, and I've had a certain amount of success with it, but for some reasons that I'll probably go into later in the series, I really don't want to have a system that's, just gigantic robots everywhere. If for no, partly because it's got all sorts of problems with dealing with aliens when your base geometry gets complex, and partly because I would like to actually use my trains primarily for things. But I do use a lot of robots. And so a lot of what I've done in this base is systems that we'll take a look at later, where I have a train that delivers an assortment of goods out to a remote station, and then there's an isolated RoboPort network just to handle a certain task. So you'll notice like where I'm invading alien space. There's a whole line of roboports here that are supporting this line of turrets that I've built. But this line of roboports is isolated from everything else. The anchor point here are some stations which apparently never ever fully got built. Some of that is still ghosted. But these are stations that are delivering an assortment of items to them. I kind of like that system, but I think it's going to need to be improved. I'm thinking I might play with recursive blueprints at some point to see if I can automate how base expansion works, because right now it's just going too slow. Um, for my purposes, I have to do too much automation or too much manual intervention. Well, okay, so let's take a look here and let's think about what we need to do first in terms of building rocketry elements. So I have not even researched rockets because that's not normally. No, actually, I have researched the rocket silo. Right. So where is it? There it is, rocket silo. So I need a whole bunch of concrete. I need pipe, electric engine units, processing units, and steel plate. And I'm almost certainly going to want to optimize that eventually, or to automate that eventually. So let's go ahead and let's build a little station where we will build rocket silos. Let's do it right here, and I'll show you kind of how my system is. You'll notice I have a whole bunch of double track buses running through my system, using roundabouts here to interconnect them. Frankly, the system is overloaded. I think I've got some design flaws in terms of, for instance, systems like here, where I've put stations coming right off the main line. I think in hindsight that was a real poor design choice, but we'll work on improving things as we go. I think what I'll do is I'll just put a siding here that will be the beginning of a rocket silo production station. I am running on, what is it, 1.1. Oh no, that's not, I didn't want a blueprint. 1.1 something, so I've got some of the new features, like the ability to flip ghosts and blueprints. That's really, really nice. All right, I'll probably want to actually go over there at some point. See if I end up using my own trains very often as just transportation to get places. And we'll send myself over there and we'll say passenger not present. So the idea here is that I would like my system eventually to be where I can just sit in my middle of my base and build things. All right, so let's think about what we want to do here. We're going to have some inputs into the system, and maybe we'll have the inputs here. What I've done in a couple of different places, and what I'm liking as my motif for these stations, is that I'll have some input stations to bring in certain materials, and then I'll have a whole series of those, and then I'll build a little microbus sort of off to the side here, and that will head off to eventual stations that will produce the output units that I'm looking for. So I'm going to play with that here. All right, so a silo requires steel first of all. So let's bring in a steel station, and I can copy paste that from here. That's steel. It's going to have a little bit of trash that I didn't want, but oh well. All right. Yeah, having a robo actually, but in this area, I think I want my roboports to be part of the grid system. Do I? I don't know if I've got a blueprint for a roboport grid around here. Let's just copy paste these. All right, roboports fitting the grid. There we go. We want. It's not technically necessary to fill in all of the power lines in the grid as well, but I kind of like if I'm going to build this and this is part of my main base, I kind of like to have it be complete as best I can. Well, that's interesting. Why didn't I ever get dropped over the... Oh, passenger not present. I need to make that my condition rather than an or. That's what happened. All right. So I've got a steel line that's coming out of here, and yes, it is just yellow right now, but I can upgrade that later as the needs arise. Processing units. So right now I don't have a train that's dedicated for processing units. But what I do have is all of the things that come off the main bus here are dumped eventually into these trains. And these are things that I think I will eventually move away from. But these are what I call my mix trains. And so this train has some green circuits. It has some, let's see, you can look over, I don't know if you can see it. I've got 4,000 green circuits, 3,000 red circuits, and 500 processing units here. And so what I can do is I will create a station over here that will pick up those, or that will accept from that train only the blue circuits that we need. So we'll play around with that, and that should give us we'll name this Mix Electronics, not call it the supply. All right, Mix Electronics. We go over here. We don't currently have anybody using that, so we'll have this. Wait a minute, did I not set my... No, it says Mix Electronics. Strange. There we go. Nope. That was strange. Let's see if I can just add it here. Okay, Mix Electronics. And what do I want to do here? If we go empty cargo, then definitely leave. If we have time, you take more than 30 seconds sitting at a remote destination station, that probably tells you that you're not going to get where you wanted to go. All right, these are not powered up because we don't have anything getting us power across the rail line there. There we go. All right, this should all be powered now. But this, okay, so I've got these set up often with requester chests. I want to change that requester chest to blue circuits. So, I'll have to debate whether I really want to do that, but I think I'm going to go for it right now. And I have some stack filter inserters. I think right now I'm just going to put in ordinary filter inserters. They're not going to be as fast, but I figure that what we're probably going to do pretty soon here is that we're going to actually build a dedicated station that does the processing units. Yeah, get rid of that requester. No, wait a minute. I didn't want to do that. I had that set up. Yeah, we'll put that in for now. I'm not a big fan of the idea that the robots might be sending things over inside the main base, but I'll live with it for now. All right, what's that? What's up with that train? Is it just destination full? Ah, yes. Okay. So I don't remember what this constant combinator is doing. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, I remember. Okay. All right. So, oh, okay. So I remember how I had this set up. So what I've got here is a constant combinator that's negative 57,000. That represents the conceivable capacity of all of the chests in this particular station when they're holding steel. I have a combinator here which takes the positive amount of actual steel that we have, adds negative 57,000 to it. So what we get is a negative number, which represents how much space is left in the chests. Divide that by negative 4,000. This will produce on the red wire an output. So if you go look over on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that I have capacity for 13 trains worth of steel to come in here. So I want to do the same thing here. Processing units are also 100 per. So it's going to be this same 57,000 number, but I want it to be for processing units. All right, 57,000. We're going to take, all right. So this is going to tell us how many trains worth of processing units we can do. And now the train limit is automatically set to 14, telling us that we could accept up to 14 trains worth of processing units. Now the truth is that because these trains of course are only carrying 500, I'll need a lot more to fill up, but that's okay. We'll just have, right now we've only got one train coming anyway, so it's not really going to affect very much, but someday when we start scaling up, it ought to be useful. All right, electric engine units. We don't have a train that delivers that automatically, but I do have a mix engines. All right, do I have? Okay, there used to be a mix engines. Oh, mix engine supply going to. Oh, I see. There is a mix engines, but it's not the big old high capacity station. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring in a high capacity station, but change it to say mix engines. There we go. Engines, electric engines will be, I think it's 50 per slot. So everything's going to be halved. Those are not built yet? Alright. Alright, we'll work on that. So this is going to be divided by 2,000. We're going to need some more constant combinators. And do we have that mix engine? Oh, that's not going to come yet because that's not built. There we go. Alright, is that train going to depart? Empty cargo. And 30 seconds time passed. That should be a pretty good config. Alright, that train is on the way, headed to our station. Excellent. We'll have this pick up electric engines. Again, I figure that I will probably have a train that does nothing but electric engines eventually. I just don't have it yet. Alright, what else do we got here? We need to do pipe. We'll probably just do that right out of iron. I don't think it justifies having to train. And I don't think well, no, we've got we've got a train called Stony. Oh, yeah. All right, so the Stony train has raw stone. It has the stone brick, but it also has concrete. All right, so we'll bring in mix Stony. And let's see. I'm gonna move this over there. That should fit. Make a little space for the RoboPort. Here we want to bring in mix stony. Alright, so this is going to be based, this needs to be based on electric engines. This needs to be electric engines, and the number is negative 28,800. Let's see, these are going to be concrete. Concrete, I think you get 100 per stack. Not 100% certain about that, but I think that's true. And concrete, and this will be concrete negative 57,600. Divided by 4,000, divided by 2,000. Get that cleared out. Get all that cleared up. I could drop some of this extra processing units that we don't need. I don't really need electric engines in my inventory. That is still... That's pulling in the wrong thing. So this needs to be pulling in concrete. And we're going to need some additional... It's interesting here. Not getting very much delivery of things. Wonder what's going on there. Somewhere here. Okay, I've got... Alright, well, we'll have to look into that a little bit later. Got tons of logistic robots still available. Alright, and the last thing I need is I need iron. And iron I can just cut and paste from over here. And there it is. That, of course, well, no, wait a minute. I want to copy the whole thing. I think I only got part of it. This one is actually using the fast belts, which I don't think are going to be necessary here. Well, big electric... Ah, yeah. Well, I didn't want that RoboPort anyway, so that works out nicely. Oh. Nope. Try again. There we go. Alright. What's going on? Oh, no, I'm short of rails. Interesting. Alright, so that's asking for... I think this is all pre-configured for iron. It all should be good. Drop in a couple of ordinary belts there. Look at that. We got concrete showing up. Wow. I was expecting this to be a little bit trickier than that. Alright, first thing we want to do is we want to turn this iron into pipes. Alright. And we're not really planning to do anything else with this, so we can simply just say make pipes. Copy paste a whole bunch of times. We should probably have this set up where it will go both sides. Alright. Let's have a splitter. We'll move this over by a bit. Alright. This will be our output belt. Producing this. Alright. We'll move that there. Can I just flip it? Yeah, what do you know? Alright. All right. So we've got a complete thing. We've got iron in, arriving eventually. Oh, that's the reason it's not arriving yet. And I'll tell you what, we'll break that. Rob from Peter to pay Paul, but you know, this is the thing that's kind of urgent to get done. And is that everything we need? Is that we already got silo prepped? I think so. Well, that's easier than I had anticipated. Seems like silo is such a, you know, such a crazy final thing. It seems like it ought to be more difficult to build, but on the other hand, I've done a whole bunch of work beforehand in order to make this work. So maybe it's not. Maybe what I actually should be saying is, hey, I worked hard on this and now it's paying off. Oh, I could do this even simpler. Because I don't think it's likely that we're going to be producing new rocket silos very often. So let's just do it a little bit hackishly. We'll do it about, no, not there. Let's do it one over. We'll just have 3 and 2. Ain't the prettiest thing I've ever built, but I think it'll work just fine. Make some rocket silos, connect up to the power bus, and then we say, hey, we are making rocket silos. And we're not going to deliver that anywhere. I don't really imagine that there's going to be a train that's going to need it, but you know what? Let's make a station. Just for giggles. All right, so an output station. I've got examples of that. So an output station generally in my system looks about like this. These ones are a little bit simpler to get configured. Oh, look at that, 500 processing units per hour, because I've suddenly built some more of that. All right, so this is going to be... Now, I don't imagine you'll ever have rocket silos in the logistics system, but the idea being, if you do, let's get them into this train where people are going to be expecting them anyway. So that way you don't just have things get lost. All right. And this is going to be rocket silo. All right. And this is, what is that decider gonna do? That decider, or no, that's the arithmetic combinator, isn't it? It's gonna do division, and it's going to say, all right, we get 1 rocket silo. Oh wow, that delivered a lot. All right, put most of those into our trash. I think it's 1 rocket silo each, so we'll say if you ever get 40, then you have a complete train's worth. So you expect you'd never have a train come here. But, well, someday we'll eventually have enough. All right, so that's kind of cool. So I've got rocket silos running. And now I got to think about actually launching the rockets. So where can I build an array of rockets?